Hello everyone, and welcome back to Sonic Heroes on the Microsoft Xbox. I'm One Well Sheep yet again.
Eggman energy detected. Ground base up ahead.
I wonder what the doctor really meant.
We must capture him first. Let's go.
Well, one thing's for sure, that doctor certainly is going off the rails on a crazy train. Yes, welcome back to Sky Rail Zone or Rail Canyon or whatever the hell is Rail something zone. I actually wasn't paying attention. The title of the stage just popped up a few seconds ago, but whoop-de-doo, I'm illiterate. What can I tell you? I'm actually not illiterate. I can read, but yeah, well, this is basically a similar retread to the stage that we went through as Sonic, as with all the previous levels as Team Dark. Although with this stage in particular, one thing that's kind of neat is the fact that the first act actually goes by extremely quickly. In fact, I think there's probably a big chance that this part, the first act of this zone goes by quicker than the Team Sonic first act, which I do appreciate. So that makes a bit of a change. Granted, Act 2 of this zone is going to take us 9 whole goddamn minutes to complete, but, Act 1 of the zone is of a decent length, and, what can I say? I like it. I like it a lot. In fact, this is one of my favorite zones in the entire game, anyway. Like, I'm surprised I actually like this zone so much, just because it's basically focused entirely on rail grinding, which usually is hit or miss if you dedicate an entire stage to it. But I think this stage does a good job of making these rail grinding sequences feel really high energy, action pumped, adrenaline fueled action, ladies and gentlemen. And what can I tell you? I enjoys this one a lot. It's definitely a zone that is on some of my top zones in the game list. It has a fantastic soundtrack. I absolutely adore the aesthetics, and whoa! What happened there? Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you folks, this isn't the most stable Sonic game in the world. It is quite a buggy one. In fact, it's a lot of the PS2 era Sonic games, a lot of the Dreamcast PS2 era Sonic games are usually pretty known for being some of the buggiest games in the entire series, and whilst when we actually head deep into the dark age of Sonic itself, we're going to find a lot more of the games are going to get more and more and more buggy in terms of how they are programmed, which is a shame, Like, even the more better games in the series, the more competent games, generally are less, they're programmed a lot less as good. I'm very bad at my English today. They're basically not as good, they're not as well programmed in comparison, folks, to maybe the more modern Sonic games or other games with the same standards of the time, folks. I mean, don't get me wrong, most of these games I can still enjoy, even the dreaded ones that everybody talks about being obnoxiously bad. I can usually get enjoyment out of them, with the exception here and there. Sonic and the Secret Rings. Sorry. Yeah, it's kind of weird. I understand I'm one of the few people not to like Sonic and Secret Rings less than Sonic 06, so it's kind of weird in that regard. I don't know, I just get more enjoyment out of Sonic 06. It's not my fault. I can actually control that game. Again, I'll get to that in the future. Although one thing I'm not too fond about in regards to Sonic Heroes is, obviously because of they had to move over to the PS2, they had to move development over to multi-platform. Sonic Team basically, instead of having to work on one game engine at a time, one sort of architecture at a time, they now had to work on 3 architectures at once. And the only problem with the multi-platform Sonic games is I do feel the controls in almost all of them are a little bit funky here or there, folks. Like Sonic Adventure 1, I will still say is the best controlling 3D Sonic game to ever be released. Sonic Adventure 1 is just fantastic to control. Sonic Adventure 2, not as good, but it still does its job. Sonic Heroes is slippery. Extremely slippery, and when you get used to it, sure, you can control the game just fine once you get used to the controls, but getting used to this for the first time was the hardest thing for me when I first played the game, when it first came out back in 2005. Oh god, I feel old. Yeah, I really found it really hard to just get used to the controls of this one, folks, because all the characters are really slippery, all the characters are very easy to go off the rails, if you will, and just fly off into a canyon somewhere if you're not paying attention to what you're doing, which I'm not too fond of, you know. I mean, it makes sense that the characters are quite slippery just because it's a speed-based game, and, you know, with more speed, by essence, you have less control. That's just how physics work, ladies and gentlemen, but, we don't need to we don't need to go by the laws of physics here. I mean, this is a video game series about a talking cartoon hedgehog who runs fast. Why can't I get more control? Eesh. It's like, even with the games that I really, really do praise latest online, like Sonic Unleashed, for example. My biggest issue with that game is the controls, and while they're great when you're running forward, when you're going fast in a straight line, controlling the characters in a slower, you know, smaller room is a night. Shadow, go. Thank you. Controlling those characters in a smaller room is a little bit more awkward, you know, folks, and I would say in this game it's easy enough to control the character if you're moving slow enough, but you know, if you need to make very precise turns, make precise movements, you're gonna have some trouble. That's my main gripe. And again, it's something you can get used to, ladies and gentlemen. It is something you can really get used to if you know, if you played the game enough. But, you know, it's just getting to that point can be a bit of a learning difficulty, you know, folks. Hell, this entire game is going to be a bit more of a learning difficulty in comparison to the previous Sonic games anyway, because how drastically different this is in design. I mean, let's face it, every Sonic game up until this point, excluding the spin-offs of course, have basically been all the same. You run from point A to point B, get to the goal, capsule or ring, break it or collect it, bada bing, bada boom, that's the end of a stage, right? Well, obviously this one, they went with the same sort of approach, but they added the team gameplay instead, so it's no longer just get straight from point A to point B, dodging and attacking everything in your path. Now, it's closer to 6 minutes? I thought I beat this in 2 minutes. Well, I am eating my own words. But now it's basically a learning curve, so we need to learn how to maneuver using our teammates. We need to learn what teammates best for what situations, you know, and, you know, that can probably put a few people off this one, ladies and gentlemen. Obviously, excluding other things that, other gripes this game has as well, like the special stages. Like, honestly, these are some of the worst special stages in the series, I've already said, which it's fortunate I've already gone through most of them, and the remaining special stages I'll be getting pretty shortly, you know, folks, so I don't know. But anyway, whenever you come across tiny little dirty walkways like that, I usually recommend switching to the flying character like Rouge or something, because otherwise you're probably going to fly into the pit by running into the pit, because it's very awkward to control. Like I said, 5 minutes ago, this game doesn't have the best control when it comes to movement, you know, it is very slippery, and again, you can get used to it, you can really get used to it, but it's definitely something I feel needs to be chatted about whenever you're talking about this game, you know. You know, because people need to be informed on these games, they need to have informed purchases, what can I tell you? But I digress. Also, one thing you probably noticed me doing throughout the course of the entire playthrough up until this point, and it's taken me God knows how long to talk about it, from time to time you're going to come across little switches in the walls, little indented switches, and basically you need to push the X button. I want to call it the cross button, and that's the PS2 controller's X button. No, you need to press the X button on the walls there in order to grab hold of them and either pull them out or push them in, depending on what you need to do for each doorway. And it's a little bit finicky, it's a little bit tricky to work on, you know, ladies and gentlemen, but you know, it's a thing. It's definitely a thing. I do find it quite tricky though, like I always decide to switch out to power formation before I actually pull those switches, because otherwise, chances are with the speed characters, you're going to probably send yourself flying off the edge, because if you just tap the X button real quick with a speed character like Shadow or Sonic, then you will just do like a quick sort of sliding kick move, which is like an insta spin dash of some sort, and you'll just go flying off the edge of a cliff or whatever, and that's usually going to be one of your biggest ways of dying. it's taken me years to condition myself to not use the speed characters on those switches just out of sheer fear that I'm gonna die because of it, you know, ladies and gentlemen. So, you know, that's a thing. It is a pretty big thing. Also, I do kind of like these quick, like, rail tunnel train sequences of this zone, because it just sort of reminds me of Hot Shelter from Sonic Adventure 1. In fact, one thing I do love about the Sonic game quite a bit is that there's loads of callbacks to previous Sonic titles. Well, I'm dead. Yeah, there's loads of callbacks to previous Sonic titles in the series, you know, ladies and gentlemen. Like, later down the line, you can see some characters referencing the egg carrier, you know. We've already seen Knuckles referencing Angel Island Zone, and I just like that, you know. I like the fact this game acknowledges that previous entries in the Sonic franchise exist. Yeah, I don't know. I always like it when continuity is like that in these sort of games, because, I don't know. I just like continuity. I just like knowing that there's going to be an overarching plot in the grand scheme of things, you know, ladies and gentlemen. In fact, it's one of the things I do feel that the more recent Sonic games, at the time of this recording, like Sonic Lost World and Sonic... Well, not so much Sonic Color, because that did sort of have a continuity between generations, but basically Sonic Lost World did away with all continuity for the most part, you know, ladies and gentlemen, and it sort of became its own isolated thing, and... In fact, most of the more recent Sonic games, the storylines sort of take a complete back seat in comparison to the gameplay, and it's actually kind of like this, now that I think about it, where this game is largely just gameplay focused and is not very much story, you know. The most of the story you're going to get is one plot twist right at the end of the game, otherwise it's just your typical stop Eggman fare, you know. So, story isn't really a big deal in this one, folks, and I don't mind that from time to time, but I usually like having a decent plot in my video games, even if there's something as simple as just a basic plot with a lot of exposition or something. I don't know, I just like having cutscenes and stuff, I suppose. And, I honestly think Sonic Adventure 1 and Sonic Adventure 2 had the best sort of balance with those cutscenes. Well, not the best. Honestly, I think the best the series got with storyline was Sonic Unleashed. That's one thing I'm going to be praising about that game when I get to that LP way down the line, because Sonic Unleashed, for all of its drawbacks and for all of its benefits, its cutscenes are something that, and its basic story and writing are probably, I think it's probably the best written Sonic game in the entire series, ladies and gentlemen. So, that's something I'm going to be quite enjoying when I'll get to that one, folks, but... You know, for the meantime, let's just continue onwards, focusing on Sonic Heroes. That's the one we're playing right now, the one with all the cheesy dialogue and grammatical errors. Like, seriously, you'll see some of the characters talking from time to time. Like, I think during Team Sonic playthrough, we've seen quite a bit of this, where the characters will make a grammatical error, even though it's a voice-acted line, for example. Look at all those Eggman's robots! It's like, what, do you even English, bro? Do you even English? But yeah, this game's ultra cheesy, and I don't know, I don't mind that so much. Like, I know a lot of people would knock points off Sonic Heroes for being this really ultra cheesy game, but I think it has its own charm and it can hold its own. And while I do prefer the more story-based things like Sonic Unleashed and whatnot, you know, I don't mind a bit of cheese every now and then. You know, have a bit of cheese and toast. Everyone likes a bit of cheese from time to time. I mean, this game did give us certain amazing lines, such as, "I'm gonna show you the superpower of teamwork." Well, actually, the line's the real superpower of teamwork, but that again, that's a bit later down the line, and I like that. You know, I still like it. I still like the game having a sense of humor with itself. You know, it's enjoyable. Like, there's room for games in a series that aren't story-focused, you know, there's still room for these sort of things, even though I prefer the story-focused games. It's, you know, just having something simple and cheesy like this from time to time isn't too bad. Also, one thing that's quite interesting, not all, but very few of these weights that usually drop on top of you can actually be can be actually whacked into tiny little pieces by your power character, and I find it really inconsistent whenever you can destroy those things, but I don't know, I always found it to be a pretty neat thing, you know, whenever you're able to, you can go out of your way, destroy those thingies, and there you go. There's usually a hidden thingy around you can hit, which I do appreciate. Also, from time to time as well, I notice the fire dunk ability that the power characters have. It sometimes is a little bit funky to initiate. Like, sometimes who are the other characters, that you know, your teammates, will sometimes just get stopped by some sort of invisible wall or something in the environment whenever I'm trying to shoot an enemy with fire dunk, and it always catches me off guard. I don't know what quite causes that. It's only a minor inconvenience in the grand scheme of things, you know, but, you know, it's still an inconvenience nonetheless. What can I tell ya? What can I tell ya, indeed? But anyway, we are pretty much getting to the last stretch of this zone now, ladies and gentlemen, which is thank God, because I'm running out of things to ramble about. And we are now in another bobsled sequence. All the things I mentioned before about the bobsled, they stay true once again, and as true in Team Dark fashion, you're gonna have to have the most. You're gonna have to have the most. No, what am I on about? You're going to have the most trouble with the bobsled sequences in the Team Dark playthrough of the game, and the largest reason for that is because they are a lot more treacherous. There's a lot treacherous. There's a lot more obstacles in the pathway you need to be, you need to pay attention to, you know, folks, alongside the standard laser beams we had to deal with as Team Sonic, so just keep an eye out, because they added a lot more things like spike balls and what have you from time to time. And I bloody hate those drops. This stage absolutely loves to drop you into what seems like a bottomless pit, even though it's not really a bottomless pit, and it just freaks me out every time I fall down one of these drops. The worst thing about it is sometimes the game mechanics themselves can actually glitch up a little bit, so when the game sends you on like an automated drop or something, there is a slight chance you'll find yourself flying off into a completely unrelated pit somewhere, ladies and gentlemen, you know? And it does honestly annoy me a tad, because there is a slight it's a slight chance you're going to find yourself getting killed for no good reason at all. What can I say, ladies and gentlemen? It's one of the more annoying things about this game, you know. It's not the most polished game in the world, what can I say? I mean, I'll defend the game for years, especially now that I played the Xbox version, but it's still not perfect. It still has its flaws. It still has its little interesting quirks about it that annoy me. Hey, that guy's doing the moonwalk in the background. He must be a fan of Michael Jackson, because it is Thriller time. Makes sense that it's Thriller time. That was a thrilling level. I'm gonna drive one of these viewers off the rails with my puns one of these days. I'm sorry. Boss fight time!
We got him!
Capture him first. Then you can have your revenge, Omega.
Affirmative.
Ready all cannons! Open fire!
Chaos control!
You'll pay for this!
I'm sorry, Doctor. You're gonna have to send me the check later time. And there we are, ladies and gentlemen, that's that boss fight done and dusted, and that's the end of this part. So thank you all for watching, hope you all enjoyed, don't be sheepish people, and I'll catch you all next time as we tackle Frog Forest yet again. So yeah, thanks for watching, I'll see you then. Bye!
Shadow?
Let's go.
Ultimate life form data has been copied.